So, in order to start now, I want to share a little bit more about Symbiosis, a quick introduction to our company. We are a platform, a marketplace that connects tech companies, mainly in the US, with software talent from Latin America. The idea is that we help you source, interview, hire, and pay software engineers from our platform for the projects that you have for as long as you need. So today we have Federico Cian, an entrepreneur that has an interesting journey so far, who will be sharing with us the ups and downs of starting a company, what to do, what to avoid, and also the experience in general. So Federico, if you could please introduce yourself, we would love to hear about you.
Hi all, and thanks Omar for having me here. I'm, really excited every time when I receive an invitation to talk about my experience. It's always super exciting, and thank you for, as I said, having me here. I'm Federico. I am Italian, but I live in Berlin, Germany. I moved in Berlin 6 years ago. At that time, I was at the beginning of my startup journey, and the possibility to get an accelerator program here was the reason why me and my co-founders we moved from Italy to Berlin. And then I found an amazing place where to stay and where to share, business and experiences. And I decided to stay in Berlin. And that's why I am in Germany. I will take the opportunity today to talk about my experience with Uniware. That was my company. I said was because the business has been sold at the end of last year to a bigger Italian company that is offering boot camps for developers.
Mhm.
So, I have to say that has been a crazy journey through 5 years of work, but, I'm happy that it's over. I'm happy that the business, is now run by someone else. And unfortunately, once a startup is done, then you start, the day after immediately to think about the next one.
Yeah.
And I am now in the process of creating a new business in a completely different market. But yeah, I will have the opportunity to talk about that a little bit.
Awesome, awesome, Federico, and it's great. It's great to have you. I'm positive that everyone here will learn a lot from your experience and for the next steps. So I would like to ask you, how and when did you decide to become an entrepreneur?
Yeah, and it's quite easy, the answer. Actually, after my graduation, I was a software developer, and then I moved to Germany. I joined Toshiba Europe. I was a product manager. And then, I spent a few years working for a big international corporation. And unfortunately, the experience was quite good because, I liked what I was doing. I was in a great team. I was really happy. But after some time, I realized that, if I didn't take the next step of my career, I would have ended up in staying in Toshiba forever and ever.
Hmm.
And therefore, when you feel that you are too much in your comfort zone, it's the time to get
To
out of
move.
it.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then, always having this dream of having my own company. I have to say that I was lucky enough to have a good friend of mine that started this company that became my startup. And when he came back to me saying, there is this project, do you want to join? I said, okay, it's the time now to finish my corporation life, and I want to be an entrepreneur. And went to my boss, said, I want to quit.
Yeah,
Best decision ever. I went from, a good salary, comfortable position and everything to,
to
nothing
starting.
for a couple
Yeah.
of years, but, really enjoyed. And therefore the answer is, I really felt the need to try that.
Mhm.
And yeah, I was lucky enough to have an opportunity around me. But I'm always saying that there are opportunities for new business everywhere. So just a
Yes.
matter of deciding, okay, I want to do that and do it.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
And sorry if I may, many times I had a question like, oh, can I run my startup if I'm not, full time? And the answer is very simple. No, you can't. Or maybe
yeah.
you can do that at the very beginning, but it's super important to take the decision to do it properly.
Mhm.
Otherwise, you will never find the time and the energy to do it as it should be done. So, for me, it was a shock, but it was exactly what was needed at that time.
Okay. 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 That's pretty interesting because sometimes we feel that we can do both things, right? And start something like a side business or something, but eventually it will consume all of your time and you need to focus on that.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
That's great. And what were the first steps of building your company when you decided to
So
start it?
let me spend a couple of words. So Uniware is a mobile application that was designed for university students to help the university students to go through university in managing university, meaning, classes, applications, tests. So like a central place where a student could take control of his university activities and journey. And then there was also a section where we were trying to understand the background and the profile of the user, of the student. And then we were connecting that user with the job market. So there was a big section where we were analyzing what the job market was looking for in terms of skills and backgrounds, and then we were doing this kind of match, saying, okay, Federico, you're studying these kind of things, and therefore these are the jobs that you could do after university. So basically, like first job placement after university.
Got it.
So
Mhm.
that was the main use cases for the app. When we started, I mean, we were quite lucky that the demand of an app to manage the university was quite high. And as I was telling you before, this friend of mine at that time was attending uni, and there was no official app provided by the university, and therefore he said, okay, if there is no app, I'm gonna do it.
Okay.
And then he made it, and it was immediately a big success because there was and there still is this kind of demand that you want to manage everything on your mobile, and when this is not possible, you get a little bit nervous about that. So as soon as we published the apps on the stores, we went really immediately with thousands and thousands of students that were joining the app. And for us, was quite easy to reach the 100,000 users milestone like in a year. That was, a crazy achievement. And so, that was how we started. And when we started to make mistakes.
Okay. 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 And that's a good point. So now that you can see from these early days, what do you think that you will do differently if you were to start the same company today?
100%. I would listen way more to my users or customers. We took too many decisions about what to develop, what new universities to integrate, without actually listening to the users
Mm-hmm.
and without using a proper tool set to analyze, metrics and KPIs. So we had an idea about what we could provide, but these were, our founders' idea, and we ended up in spending so much, time and money in developing useless things.
Okay. Okay.
I think that one of the biggest problem was that we were 3 co-founders, all of us technical founders, and therefore we were really in love with the idea of building and building and building. And that was probably one of the reasons why we were waking up every morning with, okay, what can we add to the app, rather than what is really needed and what the users are looking for out there.
Okay.
And therefore, if I could go back, I would do this thing for sure different.
Okay. Okay. And how do you think it's the best way to approach the users? How do you interact with the early adopters?
I would say it's everything about product market fit, of course. And the only way we were doing to listen to customers and to users was through people that were complaining because something wasn't working. And that was for us the only way to have an interaction. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But it's quite technical, but we didn't have a proper analytics tool behind the app. And therefore, we were a little bit blind in what actually was happening out there.
Okay.
In 5 years of story of Uniware, my startup, we took a decision to pivot, and that decision has been made because we properly analyzed the data of the usage, and we realized that out of 20 features, there was one that was way more used compared to all the others.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore we said, okay, let's go double down only with that, right?
Yes.
So that is something that we should have done way earlier. And listening to users is something that you can always do, forms, questionnaires, asking for calls, organize an events and speak with customers. Yeah, I mean, I realized way too early that one of the best way at the beginning for the first months or years when you're looking for product market fit is just listening to customer as much as you can and try to make something that brings value for them, right?
Right.
Yeah. In the end, it's about bringing value down the table and not building what you love to build, right? So
right. Yeah, I totally agree. So yeah, because as founders, we always have this disjunctive that we should follow our instinct and build something that we want because we believe that it will work, or we need to listen to the users. Then I totally agree with the second approach, right? Like people, the market, a pool, our business.
I am absolutely with you. I think that, of course, you as a founder, you start from let's say an idea, from a need. So yes, the first inputs are from you, from your experience, from your thoughts and analysis, and this is absolutely important that you are deciding what you want to do and where you want to drive the car. But as soon as you start going, then you have to immediately get feedback from the market. Otherwise you're like blinded and you're going in one direction and the market is yeah, exactly. So relying too much on your gut feeling, I wouldn't recommend that, to be honest. Yeah.
I agree. So Federico, when we talked earlier, you mentioned that you had a process joining an accelerator and you went through a program. Could you share more about that?
As I was telling you before, we had quite some success quite early. And therefore we were like, the three of us developing this app, thousands of students using the app and asking for more. And then we were like, okay, what can we do now? The app was completely for free. So no revenues, no business model at the beginning. Our main goal was just, getting bigger and, growing. And we were in Italy, and Italy is not the best place where to run a company. We were like, okay, are we looking for investors? How can we do that? Is someone there willing to help? And it was difficult. It was difficult, and again, Italy was really not the best place where to do that. I was lucky enough to have a conversation with a successful founder, Italian founder, and he said, in your situation, the only thing I would recommend is to join an accelerator program, mainly to get some money, to get, the ball rolling, and then to start fundraising properly. And therefore we said, okay, let's go for that. And, we were applying basically anywhere in Europe, Berlin, London, Paris. And then, we had good metrics in terms of growth. And therefore we were lucky that a couple of them, got back in touch with us. And then we decided that Berlin was the case. And if you are, if it is the first time you're running a startup, for me, joining an accelerator is something that I would recommend.
Okay.
Of course, if you can join YC, it's the best.
Yes.
And we tried a couple of times to get into YC, which is always, we were commenting with my co-founder, it's always a great exercise. I don't know if you have ever seen the application structure,
Yes,
but
we tried as well.
it's really, really difficult. And,
Yes.
when you go through the questions and you have, this kind of words limit and everything, you have really the reality in front of you, and, they force you to think about what you want to do.
Yes.
And therefore, it's always a great exercise, but it's difficult to get in. But there are many others, accelerator program. The one that we did in Berlin here was great. Didn't get much because it was 25,000 euros.
Mm-hmm.
That was really, enough to start fundraising, but still,
You're right. Right.
Also from a reliability point of view, if you go out there, it's your first company, never been an entrepreneur before, never worked for a startup before, you need some sort of, certification that what you're doing is good. And if there is an accelerator behind you saying, I know the guys, they have been through the program for 3-4 months, I can tell you that they are doing good, then investors are a little bit more open to listen to you and
Yes.
listen to your pitch.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
It provides like a background to your company, right? In a certain way.
Unfortunately, being an entrepreneur at the first time, it's extremely difficult. Nobody really trusts you because they're
Yes.
like, okay, you were a product manager at Toshiba, doing a company is completely different. So yeah, you have to find someone that is like supporting you.
Yeah, exactly. And now that you mentioned that part, so the first fundraising part, the first money that came into your company it came from this accelerator, and
Yeah.
then you start raising money from VCs or an angel investor. How was that process?
Again, because the company was not making money, and also after the acceleration program, we decided with our first investor, because in the end an accelerator is an investor, right? So we said that we would focus only on growth, and therefore we said, okay, the only way to stay alive is to raise money. And therefore, you know, we started to basically knock every door in Europe, Italy and Germany mainly. I'm always having fun to tell that I have been blocked twice by LinkedIn because I reached the monthly limit of you
Yes.
know queries and searches. But you know, it's something that I didn't know and I couldn't believe, but angel money are literally everywhere. Someone that can give you 20-30,000 dollars check is really, you know, next door. So it's just a matter of finding those person that usually are not on Google. So it's more about going to events and trying to, you know, look for them, maybe look for other startups that have raised before, trying to look for the names. Usually successful founders are, you know, eventually angels as well. So it's really, you know, about finding those people. It took 7 months for me to have more than 100 of conversation
Okay.
and convert 15 out of them, which was great. And in the end, we could put together about 500,000.
Okay.
Some of the investors were investing like 100, others 50, 40, something like that. So it was long. It was long. It was
Oh,
long, and you know, my main job at that time was just fundraising. I think I've been, you know, worked on the pitch deck. I don't know how many versions, and every time you open the open
yeah.
PowerPoint, it's like, oh, okay, this pitch deck will never work, and then you make fixes. But
Yeah.
it's difficult. I would say, you know, fundraising is really challenging. If again, if you are at your first startup, it's really difficult. Now that I am approaching you know, a second one, it's way easier for me because
You have the
I can
know-how,
I can
experience.
go back to all of them, both who gave me money and who didn't. Okay.
Yes.
Or to new people presenting me like, okay, I did a startup from zero. I went from 0 to 600,000 users, you know, raised almost 1 million, sold the business eventually. So, you know, now I have some credit score
Yes.
that I can use. 5 years ago,
You didn't.
it was just, you know, the Italian guy looking for money. But you know, I have very nice memories about that period.
Okay.
It's nice. It's super challenging. Emotionally, is one of the most demanding
Challenging.
and difficult things I ever done in my life. Every time an investor keeps you like, okay, you go for the next call and the next one, and then at the end says, sorry, no, you just want to cry. But you know, you
Yeah.
get used to that.
Yes. And Federico, I will follow with a very, very important question. Do you think fundraising is for every company?
Oh, no, not at all. And this is also something that, you know, now I have very clear ideas. I'm always saying you go for fundraise only if you really need it. Otherwise, you know, keep your shares for
Okay.
you.
Okay.
That is point number one. And point number two, every time you have someone that is joining a company, you have one more mind that is there, that, you know, thinks that they have rights to say what you're doing good and what you're not doing good. And in the end, is then part of the, you know, part of the journey. And every time you need a signature, you have to go back to ask for the signature and everything. It's really something that has to be carefully thought.
Address. Yeah.
Exactly. I am now on the process of creating a B2B startup. with my founder, we are like, let's try to make it in the bootstrap mode as much as we can.
Okay.
Or we raise money just, from a couple of friends that won't support us, that we know that they are loyal, we know that they will not interfere with the business, and that's it. Otherwise,
Yes.
yeah,
Because I feel like most of us as entrepreneurs, we feel like a milestone or a goal is to raise capital instead of pursuing revenue or other things, right? Like if you raise a seed round of 1.5 million or $5 million, then you're successful, which is sometimes the opposite, right?
I mean, I can, yes, it's like this. I can understand, and it was for me the same. Like raising money gives you the idea that your company values more, because every time you raise money, ideally you should increase the value of the company, which is something that in the end is good. But the biggest problem out there is that on a pure theoretical point of view, on paper, when you ask for money, you are promising to return that money multiplied by 10x.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So in case you are asking for 50K, then you are in a way saying to the investor, you know what, in 3, 4, 5 years, I will give you back 400, 500,000. And that's the math, right? So if you are not planning to have such a
return
program and scale, don't do that. Don't do that. It's really a stressful game, the one that it forces you to increase the value of the company step by step, and then forces you eventually to sell it.
Yes.
Because if you don't sell the company, you don't have cash to give back to the investors, right?
Yes.
And I'm like, okay, if your company is making money, why you really want to make your life complicated, right? So use the money you're making, maybe go a little bit slower at the beginning, because of course you have probably less opportunities to hire a developer or whatsoever, but be in control, stay in control.
Yes.
Every time a check gets in, you
lose control.
You lose control, and you have this kind of commitment that you have to increase the value dramatically of the company because you have to pay back the check.
Yes.
It's not easy. It's not easy. So,
that's a very interesting point, Federico. Yeah, and it makes you think as an investor instead of a funder. Because if you're a funder, you're thinking like, yeah, just we need to get more money and we get like a longer runway and our company is successful. And the investor is only thinking about the ROI, the return over investment, and that's it.
I mean, there are tons of articles out there on Google that explains this quite, clearly. And investors is, investing in 20, 30, 40 startups, and they know that the majority of them, they will fail, right? So they have to recover all the money plus make money with someone, just a few, that will become not unicorns, but super successful. So if you don't have a extremely successful business plan and business model there, it's difficult to raise money and to keep the promise. And and if I may, a big mistake that I made is that because we were, looking for a seed round, and we put together 14 investors. Okay. It's a very technical thing, but I want to share 1 minute. We had all of the investors in the cap table. So if you were officially looking, at the structure of the company, all the names were there. This means that every time you need to do something, you have to ask the permission to all of them. And when I was trying to raise a Series A, one of the investors in London that I approached, they got back to me saying, I cannot invest in this company because there are too many investors already.
Okay.
You
Okay.
don't have control of this car, okay,
Anymore.
anymore. Too many, signatures to require every time. You have to, change the article of associations or whatsoever. So, it's crazy because I wanted to save my company, and I did that because I raised money. But the moment when I signed at the notary, the paper, my company was dead, because at that time the overall structure was already too messed up. And nobody told
Wow.
me, but it's
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. You would think that having more investors could help you because you have these network effects that amplifies, right? And you are able to reach to a wider. Oh, it's fantastic.
Professional investors, when they see very busy cap tables, they say red flags, sorry, no. So
okay, but
yeah,
the cap table is different from the board of directors, right? The board of directors is when they have a vote in your decisions. The cap table is only because they are there. They have shares in your company, right? Okay,
yeah.
got it. Got it.
I mean, it's very technical. So if someone wants to, get more details, happy to do that in another
Yes.
moment. But yeah.
And Federico, this leads me to my next question. So when it's the right time to stop and pursue another project and change things? It's a
I
tough
would
question.
say tough question. I stopped, me personally, 1 year later. So I should have taken the decision to sell the business way before.
Okay.
It's difficult. It's extremely difficult, especially if you are putting everything you have in your company, and realizing that things didn't go as you were expecting is difficult. It's difficult. But in the US they say fail fast, and therefore, and also I didn't realize that before, but it's always about the amount of energy you can put to run the business. And when you don't have that excitement anymore,
It's time.
it's time to find a solution. So
Okay. Okay. That's a very
but
good point.
again, it's we were doing a B2C business, not making money, only growth, so quite difficult. While if you're making money, it's a different story, right? So
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. Okay. And that also leads me to another thing, that before you stop, you normally iterate between ideas, right? You try to change your company a lot. So what is this process like? What are your main recommendations in that process while you're iterating between your ideas?
Well, again, this is linked to what we were talking before about, finding a product market fit first of all, and then finding a business model that makes sense. One of the reasons that we couldn't make Universe super successful was that there wasn't a serious and meaningful business model behind what we were doing, and therefore we should have thought about that way earlier. For me, it's about trying and error as much as you can. One mistake that I see very often around me is the next feature, the missing next feature problem. Meaning, you always think that your product is not ready to be sold, to be used, to be published, and therefore you're like, no, but I can't go out to the market with this. While not only yes you are, but you must, right? Because if you keep building and building and building, you will never face the market and the reality. And therefore, the sooner you start selling or distributing a product that is used, the better. And then it's just about
Okay.
listen and see the reaction and try to adopt. And the other thing is being aware that saying no to new things, new projects, new customers is always difficult, but is absolutely necessary, right? Otherwise you lose focus and then it's a disaster.
Yes. And today in our audience, we have entrepreneurs, first-time founders, and also successful founders. So I will ask you, what are the main recommendations you can provide to a founder that is just about to start their first company?
Don't do this.
Stop now, right now.
No. But I would say do it only if you really feel the motivation and if you can really commit 100% of your time, energy, skills, experience, network, everything that you have. I see a lot of people around me going for a startup just because it's cool and because it makes you rich and everything.
Yes.
Which is not the case.
Yes.
So if you want to stay in your comfort zone, comfortable and relaxed, don't do that. Be aware that the downs are way more than the ups. And if you are still, happy with this, then go for that.
Okay.
Exactly. And from my personal point of view, find a good co-founder can be a key.
Okay.
Just because what I've said until now, if you are alone, managing all of the issues and the problems and the disappointments alone can be quite demanding. While at least if you can share, your emotions with someone else, way better. So that's my take. And yeah.
Awesome, Federico. And you mentioned that now you're starting a new company. Could you share more about this new project?
Yeah, I have a good friend in Italy, and he's running a logistic business for e-commerce. So basically anyone that is selling online in Italy and don't want to take care of warehouse shipments and all of these kind of operations, then they can approach the company and they will support them. We are good friends since university. He's a good businessman, but he has no clue about running a startup. And that's why until now he was just going from custom projects to software development to a mess of ideas that didn't work out. And last year we said, okay, there is an opportunity here to create a very precise software as a service solution for businesses that sell online. And that's what we are actually working on at the moment.
Okay.
So yeah, and as I was saying, I'm quite excited because I think that my experience, even though it was a B2C business for students, can be used now and can be applied not to make the same mistakes, but to be laser focused in what we have to do. So
and I have to ask, Federico, are you planning to raise more capital?
I am planning, as I said before, to raise maybe 100K, but from people that are in our networks. I wouldn't call them friends, but like business, business colleagues or people that we know, just to get the ball rolling. And to have, how can I say, 8 to 10 months of life just to think about the product.
Correct.
And then ship it and then start selling it and then going for that.
Okay.
So yeah.
Awesome.
If I could do it with my own money, I would do that, to be honest with you. I cannot, and therefore we need a small capital to start. But I don't plan to raise anything anymore after that.
Okay, got it. So now we will go to the Q&A section with the audience. Anna, if you please help us to read out loud some of the questions that you see on the chat. I see that there are a couple of them.
Hello, of course. So this question is from Bill Patrick. I think it was kind of answered during this webinar, but Federico, were you able to self-fund or did you work with VC?
Yeah, worked with angels and VCs with my previous company. Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Which is something that was needed because we weren't making money. We were just pursuing growth and international expansion. So yeah, fundraise was the only way.
Okay, right. So this next question is from Sri Badi. I hope I'm saying your name correctly. He says, why you need investors right away after conceiving your idea?
That's a very good question. If the product is solving a problem and can be monetized directly, actually you don't need investors. On the other side, you have to create a small version of that product somehow. So if you can make it because you are a software developer and you are a builder, go for that. If you can invest some money from your own savings, go for that. But you need some money to build the product, as well as to find a distribution strategy. Because yes, you could have a product that helps people, but you have to distribute it, and then you have to find 10 to 20 customers to start seeing how the company evolves.
Okay, great. So Brian Jack, this is more of a comment he makes. Maybe you could share your thoughts on this. He says that raising money should be thought of using a credit card, interest and repayment, or at least to try paying a portion of the proceeds back and reinvest strategically for the next sprint.
I mean, what I've seen in my experience is that usually you raise money and then you just wait to make an exit to repay that. The schema here proposed is a little bit different, a little bit more dynamic. I don't see, to be honest, that you are using some of the money that you're making to start paying back the investor. Again, this is not a loan with, I don't know, 10% of interest that you have to give back. This is something, when you are raising money from an angel or even from a VC, they are expecting to get really 10x the amount of money that they put.
Yeah.
And producing 10x with proceedings of the business can be difficult. And yeah, like one of the questions that many investors asked me was, how do you see your company in 5 to 10 years? Because they are just interested to understand if you have a clear idea that you are creating a company today that must be sold tomorrow. If you are creating a company because you want to live and work for that company, for your company for 20 years, then don't raise. It's just not working. I mean, the strategy is just not there. So
Mhm.
by the moment when you raise money from external people, in that day you are deciding that your company must be sold. No discussion. And if you don't like the idea, don't
Don't
raise
raise
money.
the money. Yeah,
Yeah,
Exactly.
I
makes
totally
Or,
agree.
total sense.
like get money from a bank, or
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, makes total sense.
And unfortunately, it's like this. So this is something that a lot of people don't realize or understand. There is not much education about how a VC works and the dynamics behind the economical plan of a VC. But a VC is getting money as well from bigger investors that are called LPs. So the VCs have to make money because at that as well they have to return the
Return.
money to bigger investors. So it's a long chain, and you can't do differently, unfortunately. So yeah.
All right. So moving to the next question. This is from Kushal Patak. Well, he kindly made an introduction of himself. He's from India and he's a startup with a team in India. It's called Burjan Tech, and it's EdTech branch, which is, well, he shared the link to the company. And he's currently working on the EdTech part, which is to train college students and industrial experts. But here he mentions that his main startup is to develop web and software for individual, also for company, universities, college. So as a beginner in the startup field, he wants to ask, what are some of the mistakes you wish you could have avoided while starting up the company?
Okay. Training people is difficult. It's difficult because the ROI of training people can be long, because you're spending a lot of time and a lot of money today to train someone that eventually could produce value, or if in case of training a developer and then trying to sell the developer, this can take like a year of time. So the company that bought my startup is doing like that. So it's training developers. It's a capital intensive business. Therefore, you need a lot of money today, and you have to be sure that your cash flow allows you to keep training and having teachers and having classes without the need of getting some returns immediately, because this could take even 2 years to get some money out of those people that you have trained. So I would say, and this is also a comment in general, if your business model is not like selling licenses every month, that is quite clear. If there are more complicated business model, then never underestimate cash flow, because money is never enough.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I believe that with this, we finished with the Q&A questions. It is important to mention that we will be sharing the recording of this conversation to all the attendees. And in case that you want to reach out to Federico for more questions, you can respond to that email, and we'll make an intro in that regard. So, well, Federico, we very much appreciate your time and all the knowledge and your thoughts today. They were amazing. I mean, like, only when you have built a company and you have walked through this process, you can share and you can know what is it about, right? So it is great to be
Absolutely.
able to share that experience with all of us, for sure.
No, and yeah, I mean, one thing that I made wrong is that I didn't speak enough with, experienced founders that they could have helped me. I got a lot of suggestions from investors, which are not useless, but not that effective, because an investor that has never created a company,
Yes.
they are just missing the details, and the devil is there, right?
Yes.
While speaking with founders is the best way to to have a very effective feedback back. So,
yeah, I totally agree. You need to be a founder to understand all those small details. That's someone that is.
Unfortunately, all of my investors were like, "Wow, why you're not doing this and that and blah blah," and I'm like, guys, you have no clue about many things.
Yes.
And I'm sorry, but yeah.
Federico, we very much appreciate all this knowledge, and I believe that it was very, very useful for all of us. As I mentioned, we will be sharing that really, really soon. And we encourage you to follow up our next events. Next month, we will have another special guest speaker talking about their experience as well. And if you're ever looking to hire engineers from Latin America, we can help you with that. Simbiosis is focused on searching and then assigning those developers to you, and you can also pay them and manage everything on that regard. So again, we appreciate your time, Federico. We will hope to have you again in a couple of months for our next
Thank
event.
you for the opportunity, and looking forward to anything that can follow this.
Awesome. Well,
thank you.
Thank you, guys. Have a good one. Take care.